The unit we've actually flipped, if you want to call it flipped. I didn't even think of it as being flipped at the time. I thought it was a new redesign. Is Management Accounting Fundamentals. Now, Management Accounting Fundamentals is the first year true accounting unit that students in an accounting major do. So it's a compulsory core unit and it's a very technical unit.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, Lene's already done that.
Okay.
I'm Sharon Taylor, so I'm the academic coordinator.
And I'm Xinni, I'm the blended learning advisor of the School of Business. So today, if we would like to give an overview for everything we have been doing, probably would take more than an hour. So what we're going to do is we just pick 1 or 2 highlights for each stage of our development to just show you. If you find there's any missing information or missing sort of like connection, you can ask us later for the Q&A session. So today we're going to go through our experience through the stage of planning, building, implementation, evaluation, and improvement. So we start with a little bit of background.
Okay, so I'll talk about this. There's essentially 300 units, 300 students in the unit, and it's an interesting phenomenon that we have them in their first semester, second semester and third semester. So we don't quite know why when they're meant to be there in their second semester. So they should have already been at university for 1 semester when they come to us. The previous design was a 2-hour lecture with a 2-hour tutorial, and the assessment tasks were homework, in-class tests, mid-term tests, final exams. So you can see mostly examinations as such. When we came to the new paradigm, I hadn't taught this unit for 20 years. So I threw everything out and started with a total whiteboard. Said, now, how am I going to do this and how would I like to see it be redesigned? So first of all, because of my past experience, I got rid of the face-to-face lecture. They weren't coming anyhow. So that was a waste of an hour as such. So got rid of that one altogether. However, I thought the content was still important for them to have. So you'll see what we did to substitute for that content. We then went on with a 1-hour demonstration workshop where I physically worked through questions of a technical nature to demonstrate how the actual theory is applied as such. And then we have a 2-hour tutorial which was also flipped, that they were put in groups with unseen questions in order to come up with some resolutions. The assessment was totally changed. We started off with My Accounting Lab, which we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, and so we were very generously provided by the publisher to be able to use one of their software packages, which is very well developed and has great enhancement tools already in it. What that meant was that I was able to assign homework on a weekly basis, and I also set a benchmark of 70% they must achieve in 8 out of 10 homework sessions in order to proceed in the unit. There was a deliberate reason I did that, and that was because I needed them prepared when they came to the demonstration workshop and the flip tutorial. If they hadn't done the pre-work, I was still back in trouble that they hadn't had that basic foundation knowledge. So that was one thing. Next thing we gave them, got rid of a test, we gave them unseen questions to do, which were accessible in class, but they'd had practice in tutorial doing some of those questions before. Not the same questions, obviously, but some others. And so they had a hard copy, handwritten questions to do. The homework, which was all delivered online, was giving them instantaneous feedback online, plus there was lots of other tools within there. Mid-term exam was also done on My Accounting Lab. So they practiced for 6-7 weeks their homework in My Accounting Lab, and now they face their mid-semester exam online. The advantage of that was it was randomised, every question was different for every student, and it meant as soon as they submit, they got their result. They knew their mark straight away. At the end of the session for examinations, I released all of those and they were able to go back into their own records and see what they got wrong, what they had to do to correct their knowledge gaps.
So as you can see, we have 3 elements in green. We're moving them to online delivery format. So for the following session, we only focus on the first one, the online lecture. So we started probably 4 weeks before the beginning of the semester, and Sharon thinks we can do 1 hour for 1 hour until I show her the planner. Later, I just show you the sort of like a enlarged picture of this planner. For 1 hour lecture, I would like Sharon to rethink into activities, components, context, type, and what are the sources, if we're going to use views, what's the views format, estimated student time on task, and the status. And once I hand over that topic planner, or kind of like management planner to Sharon, Sharon almost had a heart attack.
I did. So, from my perspective, I thought I'd just be replacing the face-to-face lecture with me doing an online face-to-face lecture. Well, that was wrong. What this forced me to do was totally rethink how I deliver content. So I had 1 hour in my mind in an online format that I could use to deliver content. That meant I isolated down the 5 major topics, so in every planner there is only 5 topics covered, and then they were broken down into subtopics. Part of that reason is to modularise it for updating. In other words, we have actually organised it so that if something more current comes in, I can just delete that one section and come back in with a new paste. I don't have to go back through the whole lecture again. So it's been broken down into small sections. Within each section, I then had to decide how much content was I going to put in, and never more than 5 minutes. Then, what other activity could I get them to do based on that? And then I used YouTube videos of real cases, real humour studies, real things about what was happening in that particular topic area. So that took a lot of time. So I would say for every 1 hour of class time, that took me 10.
To begin with?
Yes.
Yes. And it's sort of like, translate that topic planner into a format. It looks slightly like that. Like you have overview is a video format, mini lecture is a video format, knowledge test will be a formative quiz with 1 to 3 questions. And by the end of each learning module, we give students a self-checking point, and then we give them resources. So that is the plan for one topic, and then we plan for 10.
We did 10.
12.
No, we did 10.
10? Then that is sort of like an in-action mode. We use Echo 360 desktop capture because at that time we don't really have other options, so we just jump into that trial to use that one. So that's recording, and that is sort of like the look like on views. So what student can get, they can see all those topics. It's topic-based rather than weekly-based. And for each week, they can have sort of like a learning module for each element. That's the kind of like a direct translation from our planner. And this is sort of like another variety of tasks. So in a nutshell, this is what it looks like. Okay, let's move on to the implementation.
Right, so in week 1, we provided a learning planner which every lecturer and tutor went through in great detail. Most students we've had in the past say, when we say to them as lecturers, you need to spend 10 hours a week on this subject. They all just laugh at us. Nobody had ever sat down and told them how to spend that time. So we decided to show them exactly what we expected. So they were told the first thing they should do is read the textbook, and it will take you an hour to read that textbook. Then you're ready to go into the online theatre and view the online lecture, and expect that will take you 60 minutes as well. Now you'll come to the demonstration workshop, because now you've already read, you've already got content, you can now come and watch me demonstrate a question. And that's a 1 hour situation as well. Now you're ready to do your homework. And your homework will take on average 2 to 3 hours. That's the expectation. And then you'll come to tutorial ready to engage with me to do unseen questions. That's how it should have worked.
Okay, so that's in total 8 hours we planned learning activities, and we'll let them know they actually need to do 2 more hours.
Well, that was a breather. They could, for the person who was quicker or slower, there was a gap there of 2 hours that they could use.
Okay. Yeah. For communication strategies?
First part of communication was we started off on the Views site with getting started. And I have to say, and Xinni will understand, so I felt I treated them like babies. I spelt out in great detail, more than I thought was necessary, exactly what they had to do. Stage by stage. It gave them instructions of everything, how to get into my accounting lab, what to do, what the requirements were, what my expectations were. It was all there. Plus, then I reiterated that in a face-to-face interaction with them. And then, of course, we had tutorial demonstrations as well that we went on to do. And subsequently, I've never written more announcements in my life than I did this semester on Views. Every time I did something, I announced it, every time. So constantly, my announcement block looks huge. However, the interesting thing is, besides the face-to-face instructions, I did have a discussion board, but it was virtually never used. So it was a very low hit rate on the discussion board.
Did you promote it?
I did.
Like you said, please write something.
Yep,
because
they didn't.
You probably don't know something, and
Yep, no.
I'm worried. I'm having a heart attack because you're not posting.
And the announcement then gave instructions. If this is a problem, go here. If this is a problem,
Actually,
go here.
against my advice, Sharon briefly put up, please post any question on the discussion board. Your question will be answered within 48 hours.
And it was. It was, but they didn't use it.
Okay.
Did you find out whether the students had their own Facebook site?
No.
You didn't ask them?
No.
Okay. So
And bear in mind, my students did not have iPads either. Because they were second semester of first year, they didn't get the rollout either.
So that's sort of like a little bit about the implementation stage. And now we move to the evaluation. We just received our evaluation back last week, so it's fresh, it's hot. And I don't really know what Sharon did, but we have 96.5 response rate
They're
for
afraid
our
of
survey. So they have lots of things to say.
They do.
It is amazing.
Online survey?
No,
It's
hard
an
copy.
in-class paper survey.
And part of the reason was when I walked in, I said to them, this is anonymous. You do not have to do this. But this is your chance to have your say about blended learning.
Yeah.
You've experienced it now. What do you think? This is what they
That's
said.
sort of like a particular way we actually decided to go. Because when we realized for another unit, it's also running sort of like a flipped classroom strategy. They have over 1,000 students, but when they put up a survey online, they only got like 60 responses. So what we really try to do is we want really to learn from students what they think. Actually, we got a lot more data than this one. Say for Blackboard, in general, probably we got over 40,000 hits in our content area, all the elements, and then we got. It's just a little bit pain to generate all those statistical reports. But in general, it's quite good. We got lots of data. Majority of them, they actually said they are third semester students. And quite interesting, if they are third semester students, they tend to report less positive experience compared to first semester students. And the majority claim this unit is their first time blended learning experience. And actually, there are no significant differences between students who claim it's the first time and who claim they have done it before. And we cannot see the differences between two cohorts. Then instructions for the online activity, this is the part we really worked on, and then they are actually quite happy, majority of them. And also majority of them think they receive quite useful feedback. Say most of them think that they receive feedback from lecturer and tutors, and then some are like almost like 40% of them reckon most useful feedback actually come from my accounting lab. For the time on task each week, most of them think they spent 1 hour, but we don't really know for that. And online lectures, they report probably over 30 minutes, and my accounting lab. Actually, majority said they spend more than we planned for them. And some of them actually said in qualitative comments they spend 4 or 5 hours each week, which they think is unfair. So let's see. For the majority, they would think the online components for the units, either that's acceptable or relevant or highly relevant. And then they report quite positive experiences for this. So the whole online learning experience. But we also received 122 qualitative comments. And guess what? Most of them are quite negative. We put some selected comments here. Blended learning allows me to use a variety of resources to understand the concept of unit, exactly what we're trying to do. The blended learning format has been more time-consuming and much less effective than standard format subjects I have done so far. And for online lectures are better than lectures at uni, the normal lectures. But other students also pointed out they are lazy, unmotivated, and it's a bad idea because given the option, people always have something more important to do. And another student say, online lectures are not easy way to learn. What a waste of time. And this is some comments about my accounting lab. So in general, actually, we got some idea about students, so why students respond in a certain way. Not just they hate or love online lecture, but just dig into it a bit more.
I think number one, students' expectations. Because they've come to me after at least being at university for a semester, they're used to the traditional regime. So I come in as a real culture shock to them, and that frightens them, for number one. While I explain why we've gone this way, they all just look at me vaguely and saying, well, but we don't really like it that way. Learning skills, they're not ready. That's my impression. They're not ready to take charge and be self-motivated and self-disciplined in their learning. That has to be created, and I think created before they even start in week one. We have to set them up with the skills that they need to be able to come in ready to take on. This is the way we're going to learn. So I think that's a huge problem. There's also a problem in they misunderstand that if I bypass the traditional way that I've been set out to do things, that it will still work for me, and it doesn't. Because if you haven't done the pre-reading, if you haven't gone to the online lecture, you come to the demonstration workshop and it's like you've been to Mars, because you've still got no preparation behind you to understand what I'm doing. So it's a waste of time. They hate it. They stand there taking screenshots the whole time. That's all they do. And then they have the comments like, she talks too fast and we don't understand anything. It's because they haven't come prepared. So we haven't got through, even though we thought we had, they haven't got through that they must do this, read first, do online, be ready, now come and we'll do something together. They haven't grasped that.
Yes, on that point, a lot of students say, we don't want an online lecture, we want a face-to-face lecture back. But if you dig into their comments, you could see they are not equipped with essential time management skills, independent learning skills, and self-disciplined learners. They're not motivated. So it is not just about online lecture, it is how ready they are for blended learning. And also, students, they make lots of comments on demonstration workshop. The survey also showed that if they tend to follow our learning planner, they tend to report more positive learning experience. If they do not follow our recommended learning path, they feel really confused and they feel this unit is disjointed. For this demonstration workshop, for students who really think it's a replacement of online, like face-to-face lecture, they actually came in unprepared. So they find it's quite fast and hard to understand. For students who really see demonstration workshop as sort of like a tutorial equivalent, they find they don't have opportunity to ask questions and they are not satisfied. So we actually work out some strategy to really solve these issues. Okay, this is sort of like a quick overview on the evaluation, midterm one, and some quick strategies we will probably would like to do for coming semesters.
I think we have to set them up at the very beginning to prepare them that this is the expectation. This is what you should do over and over again. If you don't do this, this is the consequence of that. I think it needs to be spelt out several times. 2004, I agree, I'm getting rid of the demonstration workshop. I'm going to put it in an online format, and I'm thinking about surprise me maybe, or show me. Might be a way of doing it to be different. Surprise me. Maybe that's what I should call it, surprise me. What a Freudian slip.
You should say, surprise me, follow the sequence.
So I'm thinking, because it can't be the same as what's already there in the online lecture. It's got to be something different, because I can't hold their attention span for more than 30 seconds.
Okay, so quickly, this is the unit, and this is in a nutshell, and what we have learned so far.
We need to think differently about how we teach. That's a really big task for us to get our heads around. 2, we need to go from how we like it and how we learn to how they like it and how they learn, which is very different, and there's a huge gap there. We need to allow enough time and room that we in our own heads can plan where we're going and then do it progressively. Do not do it the way I did it, where I had to do it in the semester that I was teaching it at the same time. It was a nightmare. I was developing online content at the same time as having classes. Don't do it that way. Plan it first, then do it, and then introduce it. Make sure in your own mind you've got clear goals and you're going to negotiate those up front with the students so we're all on the same page, and be prepared the students won't like it. Many students said to me, we paid our fees for you to teach us, not to teach each other. We're at university to be taught. And we want you to show us every line where it all comes from. So again, expectations. So there's a problem there. Don't assume that the student likes studying online straight away. Don't assume that they will do it in the right order, and don't assume that they'll put the time in you think. Students are, in my mind, still not ready for blended learning, and you need to understand that they're going to fall way short of what you think they can achieve.
Okay, so one last thing. Do you want to...
Flipped classroom is integrated. Don't disregard the face-to-face element. It's still the pivotal element. To me, blended learning is just a tool to support learning. It's not the be-all and end-all. So there's not one-off design. It's an ongoing process. And make sure, yes, you still dedicate as much time to your face-to-face as you would to the blended.
So from us, we would say it is not one-off design. Quite often people say if you flip the classroom, then by the end of semester, either make it or break it, and then you need to score it. It's a success or it's a fail. But it's not such a thing. It is just learning in progress. And I would describe my experience with Sharon is like, we say blended learning is cross that bridge. You don't really know what is on the other end of the bridge, but once you cross the foggy area, actually the other end is quite similar, like
It
this
is.
side.
Just the same thing, doing it a different way.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So it's a really dynamic presentation, thank you, and you certainly had some good
Questions,
experiences that we could all learn from. Anyone like to ask any questions? Oh, okay.
Yes, George, I'm with us. That's my second day. I used to work with for excellent job. I wonder what will happen if at the first lecture you sort of sell the idea why it's so important for them blended learning.
Well, we thought we had,
Right.
but we haven't. We said it. We reinforced it. They didn't hear it.
I think there's another thing we actually observed anecdotally. For the first week and the second week, we actually got them. We thought we got them.
Well, we thought we had a success. Week 2 they were prepared.
And
Downhill from there.
when we have tutors saying, the tutor has been teaching that unit for years, and the tutor said this is the best prepared cohort ever, and we thought we got them. Like we have 200 rough students. For week 3, our clicks is like 200, 200, 200, and even the YouTube clips 180. But we're kind of like gradually losing them. After that,
The novelty wore off.
yes, this is my sort of like
It was the novelty.
They find it's predictable, they find it's easy, and then they also realize it is not accessible.
In other words, they think it's too hard. You're making it too much of that.
I have a couple of questions. One is actually a suggestion. So instead of putting on a discussion board something pertaining to the content of the unit, could you introduce the topics that would be social in nature and something that would allow them to take off the steam? Something like things I'm worried about in this unit, clearly. So if they have something negative to say, so that they were able to say right at the beginning or in the middle of the process, so that you could, redesign something by the end, maybe.
I suppose, coming from an accounting background, we're very conscious of controlling discussion boards. And we also make it very clear it is for work-oriented discussion. You don't put this paper on Facebook. This is not for general discussions here. However, they were quite happy to tell me in tutorial exactly what they thought about everything. So if they told me, we don't like this, what are you doing this for? We want to go back to the old way. Some even said to their tutors, next semester is it going back to the old way? Because we'll withdraw now and come back.
Yeah, but the social elements in any blanket of online course promote social presence. So that allows them to, for this satisfaction to happen in general.
Because we haven't really designed any collaborative type of online learning activities. So this is just one part of online things we're trying to do. For students, I think, rather than just let them speak out their happiness or unhappiness, most importantly, we would like to try to lead them to see things in a constructive way. So if you're not happy, what should we do? And then you're going to be happy, not really just saying, I'm really unhappy, I don't like that, because I don't like that.
Part of the process, they need to be able to say they're really unhappy.
They are able to say that to Sharon.
Yes,
no problem solved.
You,
We might move on to the next question, David.
David from University College. When they used, some of the surveys showed that they were seeing that they used the My Accounting Lab a lot. Did you have statistics from the My Accounting Lab which backed up what they
Oh,
said?
yeah.
yes.
And they were using it?
Oh, yeah, they had to. There was no option. I made it compulsory. They had to get 70% on their homework in 8 out of 10 sessions.
Yes. But
So
they're saying
I've watched how many hours they spent on my accounting lab. And that transposed to the results in the mid-semester. In fact, the average mark in the mid-semester was 58%, which is much higher than it would normally be.
so they were continuing it all the way up to the mid-semester.
Yes.
Second.
Continuing
Still
all the way
now.
through.
But now I've changed it a bit. Because I was preparing them for the mid-semester, it had multiple choice and problem questions.
Yeah.
Because that's what the mid-semester was. The final exam is all problems, and multiple choice is gone.
Yeah.
They're not in my accounting lab anymore. There's just pure questions for my accounting lab.
So my account doesn't have problem based.
It does. I'm using them. And they're very similar to the questions in the textbook.
So can you set up a collaborative workspace around my accounting
I've got the publisher on it now.
so that you can get that group work online and you can have a tutor who's basically facilitating their learning through the amount of
There is a
time
tutor when they because I've had to explain how my accounting lab works, but there is a button, ask the instructor.
Yeah.
And all of those we assigned to one academic. So everyone who hit ask the instructor were all answered by the one academic. Their questions were answered there. But there's also helped me solve this problem. This was to encourage them to be self-disciplined learners. They could work it out for themselves if they put the time and effort in. And the majority of them did. Very few, I would say less than 10% came to us asking for help.
So they didn't like it, but they used it.
Oh, they had to, yeah. And they all, believe me, they got the 70%. Yeah. Some of them 100%. True?
Kylie?
You sort of answered half of my question, but I just wondered, after the midterm exam, did the compulsory homework taper off
Nope.
after that?
Nope.
So, because I was thinking, if their sort of engagement was sort of...
No.
No,
No.
the engagement. The engagement is meant for the online lecture part. So what we thought, because this is research also showed us, if we put in lectures online, probably 70% of students, they tend to use that for revision purpose rather than for preparation. We will see by the end of semester, right before end-term exam, they might come back to view the online lecture. We will see what will happen. So now it's just the interim midterm. So engagement is only for online lecture, not for my accounting lab.
Oh, I've had a... Oh, sorry.
I just wondered if their level of engagement, obviously they're doing other units as well at the same time. Do you think the workload you set to them was unreasonable in any way?
No.
So do you think maybe the reason why they haven't completed all the tasks was definitely because of their time management?
They made choices.
Yeah.
But also, because other units, actually it showed on the survey, lots of students complain compared to other units they're doing. This unit is ridiculous. It's like too many works. It's probably because they haven't really worked up to what they need to spend for each unit for other units.
There was clear expectations here from the very beginning.
And we got one particular student even say, I used to only spend 1 week to study before midterm and the end term. Why you want me to study every week?
Then we got another student who said, thank you for giving me 70% barrier for homework. This was fabulous, it kept me on track, and I've done really well in this unit.
We'll leave our last question to Colin.
From the business school. I think this is fascinating, and what we've done here, it's more an observation than anything else. And that is, I think, that this design has changed, very rigorous design, and I love the idea of the planner, mainly because I am the father of a university student who doesn't plan his work. So I like the idea of the planner, but I think what you've addressed is the issue, is we're actually teaching students how to learn. And it hasn't changed, guys, since I started in this glorious edifice that we're in 20 years ago nearly now. We never taught students to learn. And I think that this is the single greatest advantage of something like this, is that we're actually saying this is how you learn. And it's kind of a reaction to that I'm sensing. I
Yeah, we're gonna really work on that strategy because what we tried this semester, for first week, we run that learning planner, we run everything. But now, because when we design the online lecture, we called it bite-sized material delivery. But now we realize we actually need to do bite-sized instruction delivery. So for the first week, we dump all the instructions, learning skills requirements, everything students, before they actually encounter the whole units, how to learn. And when they actually try to approach each element of learning, they probably forgot what we told them before. So in the future, probably next semester, we'll actually cut down the size of instructions. So like, the communication for the first week, show them a little bit, next week a little bit, another week a little bit. So we just provide the instruction right before they need them.
Just in time.
There's
Yes.
one thing I should tell you. I only did the front end, right, and that took an awful lot of time. Xinni did the back end. So all the uploading of the various content and the videoing of me and all that was done. I have no idea how 360 works. None. Right? And I didn't want to know, and I still don't know. My time was absorbed with the intellectual side, and that took all my time. All right?
What I really like about the example that you've shown today is the teamwork and actually having our sort of blade army working in consult with academics, because I think that really does change the nature of how we're teaching.
And we aren't trained to do the things that blended learning people are doing, and we don't want to know.
But there is a particular reason behind that, because when we jump into this sort of like a flipped classroom delivery, we didn't even know which software is available across the university. So that's why I took on the technical part. But once we have sort of like a collaborate or other technology has been identified as a mainstream technology, I think, at that time, you will already know how to do that, we do the technical training later, not now. I just feel like if I trained you how to do that, and the next semester we're going to change it to another piece of software, what a waste of your time.
Yeah,